Do you believe that there's still so much more potential that we can achieve as a church together? And today's byline, if you have not yet got it in your mind, is what? Thank you, Naomi. All right. What is it? But wait, there's more, all right? And today, I want to unpack this in such a way that hopefully we can leave here and hopefully we're going to dream about this. Hopefully it's going to be just in our mind. We're going to put it on our screensaver, or it's just going to be, we're going to think about it all the time. But wait, there's more. And I feel that each and every one of us seated here today, whether you're a follower of Jesus or whether you're not a follower of Jesus, each and every one of us has this deep desire and sort of this thought that, hey, there must be more. There is more. I know there's more. Maybe it's more to achieve. Maybe it's more opportunities. Maybe it's more to dream. Maybe it's more to explore. Maybe it's more to gain. Or maybe it's more to lose. There is more. And I think Ben did a great job with the infomercial and our announcements, and Volta and Megan up here. And can you remember those cheesy ads? Yeah? Who ever bought something from those cheesy ads? One person. What did you buy, Naomi? You're the most interactive person today. I love it. All right. A Thin Lizzy. Okay. How many of you can remember Thin Lizzy? All right. Hang on. How many of you can remember this voice?
I've got fantastic news. Natural Glow's back and it's better than ever. Natural Glow is made up of...
Who remembers it? Put your hands up. I want to see. All right. Who is it? Yeah, I had no idea, but apparently she's extremely popular in New Zealand. And how many of you bought Natural Glow? Yeah? All right. And apparently you got the foundation and then you'd get the brush for free, all right? But wait, there's more. There's always these things. I heard there was also the ladder guys in the mornings. Can you remember them? I don't know. I heard that was popular. But what about the Jinsu knives? Did anyone buy the Jinsu knives? We even had those in South Africa. And you know, they can slice through a can, and then that same knife can slice through a tomato. It's like that was the best deal. And if you bought them, you'd also get the sharpening block thrown in as well. And the Ab King Pro. All right. Who bought the Ab King Pro? Yeah. All right. I remember at home we had a lot of ab, we had the Ab Flex, and we also had the one that you stick on, and it was like electric shocks. All right. And in the ads, you always saw the six-pack. But, never worked in our family. But if you got that, you also got the 10-day slim down plan for free, chucked in as well. And we all know these classic ads, but wait, there's more. They all have that catchphrase, but wait, there's more. And I strongly believe this, that there is more. And each and every one of us in our lives, we have this catchphrase echoing constantly that, hey, there must be more. There must be more from where I am now to some other possibility. There must be more. However, why is it that we often just settle for less? Why is it often that we often just dream about more, but actually never achieve more? And we only speak of it, but actually we never obtain the more. And this morning, I think the reason that you and I do this is because your butt is too big. All right? Our butt is too big. I want you to actually turn to the person next to you and tell them, your butt is too big. All right? This is the only time you can do it and hopefully maybe get away with it, all right? Use your opportunity, all right? All right? Your butt is too big. We apologize for that. But how many of us are living with these buts in our life? And because our butt is so big, we'll never actually ever achieve our full potential. We'll never achieve our goals. We'll never achieve our dreams. And we'll never achieve what God has actually placed inside of us to achieve. We say things like this. See if you can relate to any of these. I'd really like to start my own business, but imagine I fail. Or I believe I need to be a leader, but I'm shy or afraid to be criticized. Or I believe I need to speak up and speak out on important issues, but if I do that, it might upset people. I believe that I need to build some new relationships with different people who don't look like me, but if I do, I may feel uncomfortable. I may feel awkward. We have all these T's and C's with all our buts in life, and you know what your butt is, all right? You have your own buts. Or maybe when it comes to our faith, it looks a bit different, and it's maybe like this. It's like I can sense that God is actually calling me. He's actually saying, hey, Wes, I want you to trust me more. I want you to go deeper in faith with me. But I'm scared. I'm scared of the unknown. I'm not sure about it. The good news is that all of us, we're not alone. We all have these but problems. And actually, some of the greatest leaders in the Bible had these exact same problems. Their butt was too big. If you can recall, there's a story about a guy called Moses. Moses, who was probably one of the most influential leaders, all right, who led God's people. When he was called, Moses had a butt and he said, hey, actually, God, please, I can't even speak. Please call someone else. Use someone else. There was another guy called Jeremiah, and God was calling him and saying, hey, I want you to be a prophet. I want you actually to be a spokesperson for me. I want to use you. But Jeremiah said, hey, God, I'm too young. I'm too young. Another guy was Gideon. Gideon was asked, hey, I need you to lead your people, all right? But Gideon had his butt and he said, hey, I'm the weakest in my tribe. I can't do this. God told Abraham, he said, hey, Abraham, you're going to be the father of many descendants. And guess what? I want to use you. But Abraham said, God, I'm too old. I'm too old. All of us have these buts. All of us struggle with these buts, and actually these buts separate us from what we truly could achieve and what God really wants for our lives. So what is a but? What does a but look like? Well, yeah, all right? It's an excuse, all right? It's an excuse you give God as to why you can't do something that could actually change your life. It's an excuse that we give God and we say, hey, no, not me. But it could actually change your life or someone else's life. And ultimately, it gives God all the glory. We can never accomplish in life what we are called to accomplish in life if we constantly have these big buts in our lives. Or maybe you're sitting here today and you think, you know what, Wes, I don't really have a butt problem, all right? Maybe your butt sounds something like this. It's more like a weight, all right? So it's not the butt, but it's more like the weight. And we say things like this. Maybe you can relate. It's like, hey, I'm just waiting to be a bit older, and then I'm fully going to commit to faith. You know, I just want to experience some more stuff. I just want to actually enjoy my life, and then I'm going to make a decision, and then God, wow, you know, I'm just going to give everything to you. Or maybe it's like this. I'm just waiting to get my life sorted out. Honestly, you don't even understand how chaotic my life is, and I'm just trying to get it sorted out, and then I'm going to start helping people. Honestly, as soon as my life is completely sorted, then I'm going to start helping people and I'm going to experience life. Or maybe it's really I'm just waiting for my bank balance to be a bit bigger. And as soon as it just grows a bit bigger, then I'm going to start being generous. You watch, man, as soon as that bank balance just increases, then I want to be someone who is generous. Or look, I'm just waiting for them to actually ask forgiveness. You know, as soon as they ask forgiveness for what they've done to me, then I'll let it go. The wait. Or maybe your wait looks like this. It says, you know what? I'll pray for you. No, really. I'll pray for you. And you will. You probably will pray for them. But maybe you could be the answer to that person's need who's sitting right in front of you. Or maybe your wait looks like this. I'm just waiting to complete my studies, or as soon as I have more time in my schedule, then I'm going to start volunteering. Then I'm going to serve. Then I want to experience that there's more. Or maybe I'm just waiting to give others the opportunity. You know, I don't want to be selfish. I don't want to grab someone else's opportunity to serve or to give or to invest or to connect. So I'm just waiting to give others the opportunity to help out. The reality is that all of us have these buts and these waits. And actually a wait is just another word for a but. But the problem with this is that these buts and these waits are stealing from us what God truly wants to give us and experience in life. There's this but wait, there's more. And I honestly believe that we can't experience this there's more unless we actually get rid of these buts and these waits. I truly believe that there's more. Do you? Do you believe that there's more? Whatever situation you're in today, I believe that there's more. There's more to your situation. And the reason I believe this, and the reason I will actually give my life for this, is because of actually God's but. God's but. God actually has a but. He has a lot of buts. And I want to share with you guys today God's buts. And I want to try and help us understand that, hey, there is more. And if we can comprehend God's but, all right, that He has for us, we'll see that, hey, man, our buts and our waits are nothing, and we can experience there's more. So don't lose me. Are we all still together? Yeah? I'm going to read quite a bit now, but I want you guys to follow this and try and comprehend what I'm trying to communicate today. If I don't do a good job today, that's okay. We can speak about it at lunchtime as well, all right? But try and just follow you, because Paul communicates this, and he speaks about God's buts. And today, as I try and unpack this, I want to help us understand that, hey, there's more. There's more to our situation where we are now, and there's more for us as a church, as a movement. This is what Paul says in Romans chapter 5, and I'm going to read a few verses. He says this. He says, "For when we were still without strength, in due time Christ died for the ungodly." He's writing and he's trying to unpack what Jesus has just done, all right? And as he's writing this, he says, hey, when we were still without, go back one, sorry, Ben. When we were still without strength, in other words, when we were still in our weight, or when we were still in our butts, in our excuses, all right, at the exact right time, Christ died for the ungodly, the unrighteous, the people who don't have it all together, the people who are actually not even for God. He comes and he dies for them. He goes on and he says this. He says, "For scarcely for a righteous man will one die, yet perhaps for a good man someone would even dare to die." I mean, honestly, how many of us would really die for someone? Maybe we would, but I mean, it's very uncommon that we'd actually die and give our life for someone that's good. let alone anyone who hates us or is an enemy towards us. Does that make sense? Yeah, Paul writes and he says, hey, this is what God did. And here come God's buts, all right? Listen to this. It says, but God demonstrates his own love toward us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. See, this is completely different to the way we see our buts, all right? Here God says, hey, because you're a sinner, because you're not my friend, because you don't have it all together, because you're actually an enemy, I'm going to demonstrate my love towards you. And he does that. And he does that by sending his son to die for us. Paul goes on. He says, much more then, having now been justified by his blood, we shall be saved from wrath through him. He says, hey, because of the death of Jesus Christ, because of his blood, that actually covers, that completely covers all our shame, all our guilt, all our sin, that actually separates and destroys us. He says, hey, much more, having now been justified by his blood, we shall be saved. We shall be rescued. Paul goes on and he says, but the free gift is not like the offense. Here's this free gift. He says, for if by one man's offense many died, much more the grace of God and the gift by the grace of the one man, Jesus Christ, abounded to many. Yeah, Paul's illustrating this and he's speaking about Adam and he's speaking about how his offense and how his sin has spread to the human race. And he's saying, yeah, hey, the gift, the free gift is completely opposite to the way that Adam's offense was, all right? And he says, much more, the grace of God and the gift by the grace of one man, Jesus Christ, abounded to many. In other words, hey, what he's trying to unpack here is, hey, you sin, you do wrong, you're not in connection with God, here's the gift for you. Here's the gift for you. Completely the opposite of our buts and our weights. He goes on then, and he says, and the gift is not like that which came through the one who sinned, for the judgment which came from one offense resulted in what? In condemnation. He's saying, hey, because of that offense, we have this judgment, we have this guilt, and some of us are living with that guilt and that judgment today as we sit in church because of the things that we've done. The voices haunt us all the time, and we feel judged, we feel looked down on, we feel shame. Here, this gift, he says, but the free gift, which came from many offenses, resulted in justification. In other words, just as I am, God accepts me. He loves me, and he sent his son to come and die for me, to rescue me from my situation. He goes on then, and he says, for if by the one man's offense death reigned through the one, much more, those who receive abundance of grace and of the gift of righteousness will reign in life through the one Jesus Christ. Much more. He finishes off then in verse 20 and he says, moreover, the law entered that the offense might abound. In other words, the law's there to actually highlight, to make sure you understand and comprehend the wrong and the separation that brings between you and God. And he says, but, another one of God's buts, he says, but where sin abounded, grace abounded much more. Paul unpacks this. And don't miss this, because this is completely the opposite to the way we reason and the way we think when it comes to our buts and actually giving or actually serving or helping or forgiving. God says, hey, even though you haven't done any of that stuff, I'm going to give. I'm going to love. I'm going to serve. And he's done that. This was so powerful 2,000 years ago that when this actually happened, there was this movement that started. This movement was the church. There was a group of guys who got together who were following Jesus. And when they understood and they actually grasped that there's more, when they understood that, hey, they don't need to live in condemnation of their sin, but there's actually a solution. There's actually something that can actually blot it out and bring transformation in their lives. They grabbed hold of this good news and they started to share it like nothing we've ever done in our lives before. Because they grabbed hold of this message that there's more, and they went and they shared it in a way that even they were willing to die for this message and this hope. I mean, I'm just being really blunt with everyone here today, but I don't know if my faith is at that place where I'll actually give my life to actually this message. These guys understood it. They understood it. They were sold out completely. They understood God's buts in a way that they had never ever comprehended them before. And unashamedly, without any hesitation, people started to spread this message. They started just to share with the people amongst them. They said, hey, I want to tell you something that you don't know. And they said, hey, even though you've wronged me, I'm going to love you because of this message, right? Because this message of hope and of transformation. This movement became a revolution that would have a worldwide impact. It was a revolution in thinking and also in lifestyle that led many hundreds of thousands of people into a relationship with Jesus Christ. If you don't know why we're here today, it's because we exist because, hey, we're all about trying to share God's love and saving grace with our community so that people can become fully devoted followers of Jesus, and so that people in each and every one of us can actually grow in our relationship with Jesus Christ. These ordinary men and women that would have a dramatic effect on all major social institutions. Families were now more inclined to stay together. Hospitals and charities were formed. Schools and universities were opened. Laws protecting the rights of the common people were passed. And the church was a massive movement. Huge. Still today, this church, Gracegate, this community, is not just a building. The people, you and I, are making an incredible impact on other people's lives. You know, Bill Hybels always shares this famous quote, and he says that the local church is the hope of the world. The local church, this church, is the hope of the world. And I believe there's more. I believe that here at Gracegate, we haven't even scratched the surface. I believe there is so much potential in this room, and there's so much potential that happens during the week here, that there is so much more. But the reason we're not experiencing it is because we got too many buts and waits. And that but and that wait is just looking so much bigger than God's buts. His love that He's given to us. I believe there's so much more. And I believe that unless we let go of those buts, unless we let go of those weights, we will never really experience what God wants for our lives. Yeah, Gracegate, if you're here for the first time today, there's so many different environments that we serve in. We believe that, church isn't just about attending, but it's actually about being involved and being engaged. And today I want to highlight just some of the areas where people are engaged and involved. And one of them is the A-team. How many of you enjoyed your coffee this morning? All right. And the A-team is just a bunch of volunteers who just come, who say, hey, you know what? I'm going to help out. I'm going to make hopefully a great coffee. And you're going to enjoy it. I'm going to just smile when you come in because I understand that this small little thing can actually make a big difference in our community. The other part of the A team is the ladies who continuously, and guys, who prepare in the kitchen, who prepare us food while we're sitting in here now and we leave, we're going to have lunch. And they go the extra mile to make sure that, hey, after church, after this program, we can actually eat something. That's one area, the A team, where people just say, hey, you know what? Even though, and I loved Wendy just sharing, I got to wake up a bit earlier on a Saturday morning. I come because I know this is a space where I can give back to. Next up, another area is our Grace Kids. Right now, if you've got a kid, your kid's not in here because they're in our Grace Kids environments. And we have volunteers there every single Saturday who are giving, who are investing, and who strongly believe that, hey, we're not just here to invest in ourselves, but we want to invest in the future generation. And we actually have the space of time where we want to care for them, but not only care for them, we want to actually give them something back that actually they can leave the space feeling valued, feeling like, hey man, that was exciting to be in this space today. The other environments we have is Radiate. Radiate happens every fortnight on a Friday night for our intermediate age kids. And I love the volunteers because honestly, if you've ever been a Radiate leader, all right, this was before camp. Let me just, share that, because all these leaders with these smiles, all right, looks a bit different after camp where you've exhausted all your energy constantly. But these volunteers, they continuously give, and our staff continuously give back because they believe that, hey, God's butt is so much bigger than theirs. And even though this might cost me a bit, I believe that this can truly make a difference for the future, for all these intermediate age kids who come and attend. We also have our Radiate Hang Zone. In the week, we have so many community kids who come here on a Tuesday afternoon. They're engaged with SALT, the dance classes, as well as just, having fun and playing. And then on a Thursday, they also have the Radiate Hang Zone. And it's just safe spaces that we want to create for our community where they can come, they can be loved like they've never experienced love before. But the reality is, our volunteers tire out. And I believe that, if we just had more people saying, hey, you know what? I'll come and help out. Even if I just have to pack the chairs and move them to the side, I'll come and help out because I believe this can make a difference. And it does. I know this does. SALT, if you've been here during the school holidays, you'll know how chaotic this place is, with hundreds of kids running up and down and performing and actually just bringing their true value out, their potential. And that only happens where we have so many people engaged and volunteers committed to, hey, you know what? I'm going to give. I'm going to serve. I'm going to befriend. Other environments we have is our youth group. And you can see this high school group. They're a bit strange, eh? But this photo actually, it's awesome to see. But the reality is I drove past Rangitoto the other day, and I also drove past Long Bay College the other day, and I just saw thousands, literally thousands of young people, all right, leaving those schools. And I thought, man, this is like our Fuel youth group. I believe there's so much more. I believe there are so many young people who are struggling in high schools. And I know this. We know this as a community. We can read the papers. We can see what's happening in our young people's lives. And I believe Gracegate is a space where we can actually, bring them to a place where they can be befriended and they can see so much more in life than where they are in their current space. But this only happens if we invite, if we connect, if we move across the room. One of our strategies at Gracegate is this green man. And this green man is actually our call and our challenge that God gives us. He says, hey, I want you to go out. And we want to be a church that isn't just an organization, but is actually a movement where we, despite our butts, despite our weights, we're like, even though I might be a shy person, even though, I'm a bit timid and I don't know if I can actually speak to someone, I'm going to throw that all aside because I believe there can become a difference when I just walk across the room and I befriend someone. I just ask them how they're going with no strings attached. I just want to get to know them and just befriend them. And we believe that this is where actually we can actually share God's love and saving grace. We got our Spark, our young adults environment on a Wednesday night. They hang out here and it's continuously growing. They have some of the greatest conversations. I just heard this past week they had some really engaging conversations about, hey, just being a young adult and the challenges that actually each and every one of them face. They leave here feeling challenged, inspired. But you know, this environment, it can only continue to grow in so many different ways if all of us are just giving what we've got in our hands. I don't know what other ones we got. Oh, we have our Young Mums program. Our Young Mums program, that's the life. There we are. It's the life of this place. You know, we have 2 intakes each year. And the Young Mums, honestly, they inspire us so much. And this requires so much volunteers. It requires the space. But it actually also requires finances, you know. We want to give into these mothers' lives, and we want to actually invest in these programs even more. And this can only happen when all of us are throwing our butts away, we're throwing our weights away, and we're saying, hey, we want to make a difference in these young mums' lives. What else is there? There's team night. Team night. We're so grateful to have so many volunteers who engage in the music and in the tech desk and in the cameras and in everything that happens here. And every Thursday night, this place is filled with a team who consistently comes and is actually like, hey, there's more. We can get better. We want to get better. Hey, we want to achieve more. And honestly, this can be a space where not only are we just, scaling up or getting ready for our Saturday program, but actually a space where we're experiencing community, where we're actually asking, how was your week? How are you actually doing? Team night. JR. And giving. Don't usually speak about this one, but often we don't speak about giving because I'm afraid. I'm actually like, hey, I don't want your money, but actually we do. As a church, we do. And honestly, the reason we do want your money is because we believe that this community is actually making an impact. We are. And it costs money. Every single day that this community is open, all right, it costs a lot of money. And at the other side of it is actually there's something so great about giving. There's something that happens inside of you. We truly believe that it is better to give than to receive. And honestly, I think that we're missing out on more when we're not giving, when we're not faithful, and we're not actually saying, you know what, even though I might not have a lot of money, this little bit can actually make a little bit of a difference in this community. There's a story about Peter. He was one of the followers of Jesus. He's probably the guy who messed up all the time. His faith was, strong at times and weak at other times. And at one point, Peter is with some of the other disciples. They're in a boat. And while they're in that boat, they're in a storm and they see Jesus actually walking on the water. If you ever thought there's more, Jesus walking on the water. And Peter actually looks at him and Peter actually says to him, he says, hey God, if that's you, let me step out of the boat. Let me step out of the boat and walk towards you. And Jesus says, it is me. Come to me. And Peter, I don't know what he was feeling. I don't know what he was going through his mind. And obviously he had huge courage. But he abandons his butts. He abandons his weights. And he actually, for the first time, I believe, he steps out in faith, not knowing what's going to happen next. Is that foot is it going to stand on water, isn't it? And he does that because, hey, maybe he's sensing, like all of us sense inside of us, that there must be more. There is more. And he does that. He steps out in faith. He leaves the boat. He focuses his attention on Jesus and he walks to Jesus. The story goes then that he starts losing sight of Jesus and begins to sink, where Jesus actually grabs him and pulls him up. I love that story because it's actually showing that there's more to than just the ordinary as well. Faith is actually living in the extraordinary. And I believe our faith grows the most when we leave our comfort zone, when we leave our boat, when we actually step into the unknown, when we don't have and we give, when we don't have time but we say, you know what, I'll make time. When we have all these fears but we say, despite all these fears, I'm going to connect with this person, or I'm going to forgive this person. That's when faith becomes real. That's what this movement is about. I don't know where you're at today, but this catchphrase, but wait, there's more, has got so much meaning for our lives. Oh, let's go to that quote quick, Ben. To end off with, you'll never know what the church can do for you until you know what the church can do through you. Gracegate is us. It's everyone who's in this building. It's not the building, it's the people. We're this movement. And wherever you are today in your faith journey, I want to encourage you just to take that next step. Just to abandon the one but. To step out in faith. And just see what God can do in your life. Honestly, the times that my faith have grown the most is when I've been so scared to take that next step. When I didn't know what the outcome's going to be. And even though maybe I felt as if I was sinking, then I'd know that God is there and He'll actually help me through. I believe that's the God who can show us so much more. And I encourage us that we'll take that next step, that we'll leave today and we'll be like, hey, what can I do? Where can I get involved? Maybe it's not even in this space. Maybe it's outside of Gracegate. But whatever it is, I pray that you can take that next step. God, today, we believe it. We believe that there's so much more, God. You wouldn't send your Son to come and die and pay for our sins and just leave us here living in the mundane, Lord. There's so much more. And God, today, I pray, God, that each and every one of us sitting in church today will just grasp what our next step is. And that we'll take it, God. And that we'll run with it. With everything that we have. Because we know that you're doing something inside us, God. We know there's more potential. There's more to achieve, God. And you want to do something through us, Lord. We want to experience you through that. I pray for this space. I pray for Gracegate. I pray for everyone who walks in these doors during the week. I pray, God, that everyone here will continuously know that this is a place where we value belonging, we value discovering, and most importantly, we value engaging. Where they part of the solution. So God, speak to us now as we close, as we sing this song. I pray that you'll speak to us and just enlighten us with what our next step is, God, and let's run courageously towards that. Let's take that step outside of the boat. Is our prayer today in Jesus' name. Amen.